So in 2015, international travel to the U.S. reached another record, surpassing the 77 million point. When we look at who drove the growth, this really came from our overseas markets, where we saw the overseas markets growing by about 10% overall. Canada, as Neville mentioned previously, has contracted somewhat. Last year, we saw a decline in visitation by about 10%, while Mexico grew at 8% last year. We continue to see markets out of Europe, such as the UK, grow significantly, and then, of course, China continue its very strong increasing trend in the last 12 years, we've seen 11 of those see double-digit increases in travel to the U.S. What is the global economy telling us about our travel prospects? So there are two things that are very important for us to look at from an economics perspective whenever we're talking about travel. It's number one is GDP growth globally. So whenever we look at this, tourism economics projects that global economic growth will slow to about 2.2% at the end of this year. This is the slowest growth that we have seen since the recession, but looking forward to 2017, we're gonna see this grow to about 2.7%. So we're gonna see it continue to rebound. Globally, we're looking at more than 244 million households that are coming online into that travel-enabled population. We're also seeing a growth in air route development, mainly in our Latin America and Asian markets, and we're also seeing air route development and expansion with airports with more than 2,500 projects coming online, and 340 of those are actually new airports that are being developed, and a lot of those are in European and APAC countries. Whenever we talk about travel south and we talk about travel to the region, it's very important to note that while we have seen travel grow in terms of volume, our share of U.S. travel has been very important for us to look at. In some instances, especially some of our markets, we've seen that travel south volume has not grown at the rate that it has for the U.S., but interestingly, in 2015, there was a large gain in market share where the Travel South region captured about 8% of overseas arrivals into the U.S. So in general, what are the takeaways that we all need to have from today? So growth of global economies through 2016 is going to be slow, but travel's remained resilient. As we look in the short term, 16 and 17 will be somewhat softened compared to what we've seen in prior years, but in the medium term, the U.S. overall is going to see a growth in overseas arrivals. When we look at Canadian travel into the U.S., we are going to see a decline in the short term, but in the medium term, the Canadian market's going to begin that upward climb again with growth out of that market. While we would be remiss to not talk about the fact that there is a volume loss that's happened there, but the market is going to turn around. For the Travel South region, it's a very positive story. Travel South is continuing to see a gain in market share. We're seeing activities in some of the emerging and our long-standing large volume contributor markets that those efforts are really starting to pay off with a gain in market share, and that will continue for the Travel South region. So it really is a positive story for the region overall.